Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be introducing a new series I'm going to be doing. These are going to be similar to the fleet battles I used to do, but I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Now, if you guys didn't know about the fleet battles, basically I just grabbed two of my fleets of ships. I randomly selected ships from both fleets to assemble, well, fleets. Let's pick a random place and then have those two fleets battle. Thing is that there are no stakes in that. Like, there is nothing too strategic going on except for the battle itself. So I wanted to make things a little bit different and kind of just open things up. So I decided to put that on hold and work on a new series that would instead make things a little more interesting and make it so when a fleet is lost, there are actual consequences to losing fleets. And I also wanted to try making battles a little more interesting. So I've come up with something a little bit different here. As you can see here, we have this board of sorts, and there are 9 quadrants on this board. You can see all these LCDs here. Each of these LCDs are actually planets, or more specifically regions on planets. They're supposed to represent their own planets, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So you can see that we have a couple of these planets shown with colors for a background, and those are supposed to represent the different fleets that I'm going to be using in this. Now, each fleet has its own home planet, and the goal is to take over the entire board. And just so you know how many planets there are, well, there are a lot of planets. um, includes a lot of different modded planets as well. There will be a water mod, there will be there's just a lot of planets. And basically I put the planets into different biomes, so that way we get even more variety to where these battles happen. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and explain how this board game works. So again, the goal is to take over the entire board, and each fleet is going to try to expand. But how does one exactly do that? So we have to go through a few systems. So over here in the back, we have all of this. And I did put some notes around so I know what I'm doing, but after this entire season is done, I'll probably upload this on the workshop so that way people can use this on their own. It's kind of like a D&D campaign, just posted like every once in a while. I'll be doing this every Wednesday and Saturday, preferably, so that way you guys can see what happens. Let me get into it here. So over here we have each of the fleets. I kind of put their symbols here so you can kind of just see where they are. Now each fleet has a budget, which is the amount of currency that they have. And of course they have an income. When well, actually I'll explain the income later. You'll see what this does. Then there's also the planets they have, the planets that they own. So of course the faction here that has the most planets is one that is winning. So this entire board game is going to work in a system of turns. So essentially each of these factions are going to go in order, and they're going to perform a certain amount of actions. Hold on, I keep moving weirdly. All right, there we go. So a faction will get 3 actions, and then their turn is over, and they moves on to the next faction, and so on and so forth until all the factions have done their rounds. Now, each video, I am going to go through 1 round of each faction, so we see what they do. Let's go ahead and move over here. When a faction goes into combat, so let's say that's like, I'm explaining this all out of order. Alright. I'll just go around the board a little bit just to explain. So, instead of having a normal, when a faction is going to combat, I'm not going to do just like normal, like 1 fleet versus 1 fleet kind of thing. Instead, I'm going to randomly select what type of battle that will happen. And these battles will, they vary in their objectives and how they work, making each battle a little bit more unique and more more interesting. You'll give some fleets more of an advantage over others depending on what kind of ships they have. So maybe smaller ships might be more beneficial, or maybe bigger ships might be more beneficial for the task at hand. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the different kinds of battles that will happen. So over here in types of battles, we have the team deathmatch, which is our normal type of battle, where you have one fleet on one side and one fleet on the other side, and they're just going to battle. And of course, to make sure the video doesn't become too long, I will have a time limit on these battles. So that way they don't take too long. So you can see here, it's basically just a normal battle, one fleet versus the other. Then we have base capture, in which there's going to be two base-like structures just on the ground, and the objective is to destroy the base. The fleets can completely ignore each other if they want to. The objective is to destroy the base. If the base is destroyed, then the opposing fleet wins. That's the way it works. Pretty simple. Then we have the capital ship battle. So in the capital ship, I'm going to take the two fleets, I'm going to get the largest ships, and those ships are going to become the capital ships of the battle. If that ship dies, then the entire fleet dies. That's the way it works. Pretty simple. It makes battles a little more interesting, where all the other ships have to protect this capital ship. And their AIs will actually reflect that. All the ships have task blocks in them, so they will be joining the battle. Then we have skirmish here. So in skirmish, I'm going to grab the fleets, and I'm going to divide the fleets into 3 groups. And these 3 groups are going to battle separately, so that way it's not like, oh yeah, I rely on like one super powerful ship and I have a bunch of fighters. Well, you have to win 2 out of 3 of the battles to actually win, and you can only use that big capital ship in one of the fights. So this makes it a little more interesting, where it's you have to really figure out how your forces are being divided. And of course, that'll be done randomly. Now, tournament is a bit interesting. Instead, the way the tournament is going to work is that I'm going to spawn only one ship from each side randomly, and then when a ship dies, I'm going to replace it with another ship from its fleet. And basically, the fleet that runs out of ships will lose. Pretty simple. Then we have the convoy. So the convoy is an interesting one, where basically there's going to be a defending fleet, and they're going to be escorting a cargo ship. And to win, that cargo ship has to make it to its objective successfully. There'll be an attacking fleet. They'll be divided into 3 groups, which are going to attack at different times. If the transport successfully makes it, then defenders win. If the transport is destroyed, then the attackers win. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But then we have a variant of that called siege, where instead that cargo ship, it's not a cargo ship, it's instead a siege ship, and it is going to try attacking a base. That siege ship is going to have to get past 2 groups and then a final defending group before it gets to the base. And when it gets to the base, it needs to destroy the base to win. Then we have base assault, which is a little more complicated. So the way that base assault works is that there'll be 2 bases, and the fleets will not be spawned in. Instead, the fleets will be placed into projection blocks. And we're going to be using a handful of mods here, if you haven't figured that already. We're going to be using the instant projection mod with a timer to basically spawn the ships on a timer. So basically, the more of a certain ship you have, the shorter the timer is for that, and the more of that ship will spawn in the battle. And basically, it'll be infinite ships spawning all the way until one base is overwhelmed and gets destroyed. That's the way it works. Then we have time attack. Time attack is similar to the tournament, except that there is a timer for 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes, ships from both sides will be spawned. That's all for the battles covered. And hopefully that'll make things a little more interesting, especially because of the different locations, so that'll be unique. Now, as the factions explore the map, they're going to need to claim some planets. Now, when a faction goes to a planet, they automatically claim it, and that faction will be randomly selected to become one of the following worlds, except for one. I'll explain that in a little bit. So, there's different types of worlds. It could become a colony world, and you can see here it generates a certain 10 million income, which is a lot more than just the 1 million you start off with. So, expanding will give you more income, meaning that you make more money every turn, or every round, as I should say. So that helps a lot. So that's a colony, and if it becomes a mining world, then it generates 15 million instead. So it could randomly become either of these, or it could become a shipyard. Now, shipyards are important because shipyards allow you to produce fleets, and they have different levels. So a faction could have a shipyard, and they could upgrade that shipyard to become a more powerful shipyard that's able to produce more ships in the fleet. And that's worth noting that when a faction creates a fleet, the ships in that fleet are like permanently in that fleet until they die in a battle. If that ship dies at the battle, the fleet becomes smaller because it no longer has that ship. And it keeps going all the way until there's no ships left in the fleet at all. Then it's completely evaporated. So it's preferable to be able to produce bigger fleets so you can have more ships in that fleet. The thing is you have to spend a decent amount of income to actually, upgrade your shipyard. And of course, getting a shipyard, you have to be lucky enough to get a planet that becomes a shipyard. If you don't have a shipyard, then you're going to rely on your homeworld here. And your homeworld is your starting world. No other planets can become a homeworld. Basically, a homeworld will generate 1 million income every turn, which is a little bit. It's able to produce fleets of up to 5 ships, and that's about it. And then, sometimes when you capture a world, it can become a fortress world. Now, this takes a little bit of explaining. So, a fortress world, well, when fleets are exploring the map, they are going to go over planets. If you go over a planet that does not have any defenses, it'll be claimed automatically. However, if you go on a planet that has a fleet on it, then a battle will happen. But there's a small exception to that. If you go onto a fortress world, regardless of whether there's a fleet there or not, you have to fight a fortress. And as you can see here, the fortresses have some weapons here that are pretty powerful. Now, these are weapons from the Eric's weapon mod pack. Excuse me. There is quite a few weapons in that mod pack. So these fortresses are going to be using these very powerful weapons to take on the fleets. And as you've seen, the fleets are pretty small. So if the fleet successfully destroys the fortress, then they claim the planet. If there is a fleet and a fortress in a world, the attacking fleet has to first destroy the fleet that's there in whatever battle is chosen randomly, and they must also destroy the fortress afterwards in order to win that planet. And fortresses can be upgraded to become significantly more powerful. Now, coil guns are pretty powerful. We know they lose some damage over with range. And of course, the Hydra launchers are pretty decent missiles. They don't do an overwhelming amount of damage. The Thunder Lance will insta-kill a lot of smaller ships, and of course the Longsword will do a significant amount of damage, and then the Kingsword will basically one-shot almost any ship, regardless of what it is. And the Starfall will also do the same, although they take longer to reload. So Fortress Worlds can be very, very, very powerful. So now let's go over what actions a fleet can actually perform. So a fleet can do, a faction can do 3 things. They have 3 actions. They can do any of these, but they can only do things 3 times. So let's say it's your turn. Well, you can choose to move a fleet that's already existing to another planet. That will take 1 action point. You can choose to upgrade a planet. In other words, upgrade a shipyard or a fortress world. That will also take an action point. Or you can choose to build a new fleet, which also costs an action point. So those are the different things that can be done, and you can only do 3. So you can move 3 fleets, or you can spend the entire time upgrading, so upgrading 3 things, or you can just build 3 new fleets, or you can do a mix of them. But you can only do 3 things. So now we're going to go into things here, the win conditions. So how to win and combat rules. So as I mentioned earlier, to win the game, 1 faction has to take over the entire board. If a faction loses all their planets, then they're eliminated. And if you lose your homeworld, that doesn't mean you lose. That just means you don't have a homeworld anymore. And that can be a problem because, if you run out of shipyards and you don't have any fleets, you're basically in a checkmate situation where you're unable to build. Or, expand. You have to be, really careful and be lucky enough to have some backups around the place. Now, here's some AI rules for the battles and stuff. This is just to make sure it's fair. All the battles are going to be automated using AI. There'll be no one piloting them. I'll just be spectating the battles. And if you guys do decide to to use this when it's uploaded eventually, like maybe like months or weeks from now. Who knows how long this will take. You're not supposed to pilot the ships. You're supposed to let AI do a lot of the stuff because the piloting factor is usually a lot smarter than the AI, and a lot of unexpected things can happen. Now, the ships are going to be spawned per battle type, and the AI will require some setup before battles, the way the ships have their objectives all laid out. So now we're going to go into how to play and what happens, because there's quite a bit that happens. So when a battle happens, all of the destroyed ships that were destroyed in that battle are going to be removed, and the losing fleet will be completely deleted. They'll be gone. That means that the fleet left over, they're going to be fully repaired, and any carriers that have fighters, they're going to be fully restocked with fighters. And of course, the captured planet, if you won, that planet is going to have their type re-rolled from the different types of planets over there, except for homeworlds, because you can't get any more homeworlds. Now, locations. So you saw how there was just a lot of planets and stuff here. I'll explain how locations work. So, when combat happens, a random type of battle will be selected from the list over there, that kind of long list, and then the battle will take place at the region. And that region is going to represent the planet. The battle will take place on the planet, but there are multiple of the same planet on the board. But in order to make sure that they kind of seem like different planets, there's different regions that they're going to be in. For example, let's take the Earth-like planet. There's a lot of biomes in the Earth-like planet. It could be in the desert, it could be in the mountains, it could be in the forest, it could be on a random lake. Basically, those all count as different regions, and they are represent, quotation marks, different planets. So, yeah, that's how that works. Now, the host is responsible for spawning the structures and special ships for the battles. As you've seen with the different battle types, there are some things that need to be built, such as, bases, cargo ships, siege ships, that kind of stuff. I'm still working on some of those, but those are all things that the host is responsible for spawning for the battles, since those are not specific to the fleets. Now, the routes and locations are also decided by the host. I'll be going around to the different planets. They're all over there. There's a lot of them. And I'll go ahead and find the locations that fit in best with the locations mentioned on the map. Okay, and of course, usually there are multiple areas per planet that fit the criteria of these locations, so the battles won't always happen on the same exact spot, necessarily, if it's in the same planet on the board. Alright, so now we're talking about expansion. I already mentioned earlier, if a fleet travels to a planet that doesn't have any defenses, it'll just become an automatic part of the other faction's territory. Pretty simple. New planets defended by a fleet or fortress, a battle will begin, and of course claimed planets will be randomized to become one of the planets up there. Simple. Now turns. So each cycle, twice a week, as I mentioned, this is something I'll be doing every Wednesday and every Saturday. Each faction is going to have 3 actions. And the factions are also going to receive their currency each turn based on their planet's total income. And the factions can choose to either save up or spend their money that they saved up. One other thing I'm going to mention here. All of these factions here, they are going to be AI in a way. Let me explain that a bit better. They're going to do their actions randomly. And I mean like completely randomly. So whatever actions they decide to do, it will be completely random. When they build a fleet, they're going to choose random ships as long as they have the budget for it. And to make sure that things aren't going to last forever, there are some criteria that I have to make sure that they work. Where is it? I know I have the notes somewhere. Here it is, notes for the season. So yeah, all the faction actions will be randomized if a faction chooses to build a fleet. I already said that. If a faction chooses to move a fleet, yeah, so when a faction decides to move their fleet, I'm not going to allow the fleet to be able to go back into friendly territory. The fleet will only be allowed to move towards enemies or unclaimed territory. So that'll make things, a little more interesting. It'll make so the factions are forced to go into battles and go towards each other. So now we're going to go ahead and, I guess, begin. So right here at the start, you can see there's a lot of unexplored territory here. We have no idea what the planets are going to be like beyond the ones that we already have for each faction here. So we're going to see what happens. So our first faction over here will be the Yellow Fleet, the New Galactic Alliance. And you can see they are on the moon, Ice Hills, and that's going to be their homeworld. So I want to see what they're going to do. So over here, we can see their income, their budget and their income. They only have one planet, and of course, one action so they can do. So they don't have any fleets. They can't really upgrade, so their only option is really just to build a fleet. So let's see what they do. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get the AI pulled up, and let's see what it does. It is going to build a fleet with okay, they have 9 ships. I'm gonna type this here. They don't have enough money for that. They only have enough money to make like 2 ships. So they're making one of those. They're making a Raptor Corvette. So I'm going to go ahead and type this here. I should just teleport myself here so I can just type this out. So let's see. I gotta subtract the money that each of these ships cost. Okay, so by doing that, they have one of those, which will leave them at. Gotta go over here and subtract their money. So I only have that much money left right now. And that's just for one of the ships. So we're gonna take that, and all they can do now is make fighters, so. Now their budget is gonna go down to that much, and that's the amount of money they have left over. So that means that if we go all the way over to them on the board, this is how much they have left. So that's their fleet. That's their first action. So they've already done their first action. They're unable to make any more fleets, so all they can do is just move their fleet. Let's figure out where they're going to move, because they can move in 3 directions from here. So we're just going to randomly select which one here, and according to this, they are choosing to move to the left. So they're going to move over to this Titan Lake here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab the fleet from here. We're going to go ahead and grab a faction color here. And this here, they've now discovered this planet. We also need to roll what kind of planet this is. So let's see what types of planets they could become. So it could become any of those 3. So we're going to generate another number here, and it becomes a colony world. So because it's a colony world, that is another 10,000 income. So we're going to go over here and go and add that to their board. Just like that. So basically, the next episode, they'll gain that much on top of their current budget. So that's everything that the Yellow Fleet can actually do right now. They do have that third action, but they already moved their fleet once, so they can't do that again. So now we're going to move on to the next faction on the list. The next faction is going to be the Federation here. So let's see what they do. They can't really do anything other than build a fleet, so I think their best bet. Let's see what they build. Within their budget, of course. They only have 1 million to work with. Yeah, just 1 million, so... I'm gonna do some calculations here and figure out which ships they are going to make. They can only make up to 5 ships in one fleet, so... Let me do some quick calculation. Okay, so they are going to have 5 of these fighters in their first fleet. So that's their fleet. We're going to go to the back of the board, and we're going to go ahead and give them their budget here. So this is going to be the remaining budget. Just like that. And now if we go back over here, they are going to be moving this fleet to another location. So let's see where they put that fleet. So this fleet, they have 4 different directions they can go. They go up there, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they have 4 different locations they can go to. So they're going to this planet up here. And of course, we need to generate what kind of planet it's going to be. It is a colony world. So yeah. There we go. So that's where that fleet is moved. I'm going to go ahead and add their income and stuff over here. So the different fleets are starting to slowly expand here. Nothing too crazy going on. The next fleet here. Let's see where they are. So that fleet, Johnfield Technologies, is actually right in between them, right over here. So they can only make one. Let's see what kind of ships they can make. So they're making their fleet, which they only have very limited options with their budget. So okay. So they're making 5 fighters, just like the Federation, just like that. And that's gonna leave their budget at that much. So let's see where they go. They only have so many options. They only have 2 places they can go. So that fleet is going to move down, just 1 planet away from the next area. So next episode, they might actually get some battles. Not a homeworld. Okay, and what type of world does it become? This is a fortress world. Alright, so that's that. And these 2 planets are like 1 away from each other. So their income is basically the same, but they have 2 planets now. Now we're going to go ahead and see what this fleet over here does. So this fleet is located down here. They're on a water world, which is interesting. So the ships that they're going to build, there's only 1 kind of ship they can build right now. So here we go. Let's go ahead and subtract to get their the amount they actually have. So this will be left as yep, just like that. So they didn't really spend all that much. And this fleet is going... Let's find out where they're going. So they only have 2 directions they can move. And they're going in this direction here. And this world here becomes a mining world. So yeah, as a mining world, it generates that much income. Alright, so now we go on to the next faction here, Delta Shipyards. So Delta Shipyards is on this corner of the map over here. They're currently on Reach in the desert. So Let's see what kind of ships they're going to be building. So they're also going for a bunch of fighters, which is interesting. And their budget, if you go to the back over here, is going to be reduced. To that much. And of course, that fleet that they have created is going to need to move. So let's see where they go. They're going up this way. And the type of world that they are creating here. Well, let's see what kind of world they become. It is going to become a colony world. Up here. So by creating another colony world, their income is going to increase by a little bit. Just like that. And of course they now have 2 planets. Now we go on to the next faction over here. They are located on the bottom of the map down here. Let's see what they do. So their budget, they have they don't really have much they can do here. Let's see here. Alright, let's see. So their fleet will be only 3 fighters. So that'll reduce their budget by a little bit. I actually reduced their budget by quite a lot just to make those 3 fighters. So these 3 fighters are going to move. You got a lot of options on where they can move. They're going to go straight up. So they're going straight to here. And this planet is going to become a fortress world. So I'm going to go on up, and I'm going to make the changes. So now that we have that, we move on to the last faction, and we're going to see what they do. So the last faction is located on the top left of the map, right up here. So right now they are on a city planet. And what kind of ships are they going to make? Okay, so they can make 5 of these. If I go over to the back, I can subtract from their budget how much they needed to make that. Okay, and we're going to see exactly what they do. So, with those 5 fighters, they are going to go... They're going to the right. They're going straight this way to take over this planet. And this type of world is going to become a fortress world. So that's that. They remove the fleet from here because they already moved it. And I might make this a little more gray. About there should be good enough. So from here we can see how the different factions have moved around. So the New Galactic Alliance up there is 1 planet away from fighting with the Great Red Sun Empire here. If they do battle, it'll be a battle of fighters versus fighter and corvette. What else? The Federation and Johnfield Technologies are also 1 planet away. If they do decide to battle, it'll be a battle of fighters versus fighters, which will be interesting. What else do we have? Down here we happen to have... None of these are actually like too close to each other. They're still like planets away, undiscovered planets away from each other. So far, this fleet here, the Pirate Empire, is the only one that's actually moving up towards the center of the map. All the other ones are kind of just branching off towards each other. I mean, Delta Shipper's also going up towards empty territory, so that'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, I guess that's about it for this episode. Hopefully, next episode we actually see a battle happen. But this is everything for now. Hopefully, we get to see stuff happen with all these planets over there. Alright, take care and have a great day. See you guys on the next episode.